And so I like the idea of
Oh, so this is like it being, external actually like carrying out contracts versus internal assassin's school politics.
So that's there's an arrow part.
So we all agree that red is definitely different. I mean, assassins. And maybe blue is like a combination of like influence and reputation kind of, so it's like...
Yeah, I feel like the higher influence you have, the more contracts you have.
Right?
So like maybe if you have a lot of high cost
These are
oh, thank you. Guys, on one of the cards I put 2 green dots, and that was supposed their leaf icons on the card, and that was supposed to be indicative of victory points. And I thought I removed them from all the cards, but I left them on one because I thought I should leave that on there. So you guys can do whatever you want with it. If there's still victory points, it's great. If there's something else, that's also great.
All right, so Michael, I want you to say announcement of this game.
Sure.
They have certain abilities, or you could put them as like
Maybe we should go to Deadwood.
they will like have the opportunity to sell out teammates to save themselves.
What do they teach in their classroom? What kind of classroom is it?
It's an abandoned classroom.
It's abandoned right there. Because what's great about classroom is that that's like an entire vein to mine, right? You've got the poison classroom and the gymnasium classroom and
No, we don't have stabby classroom.
the stabby classroom. Well, no, I don't have a good word for this. The classroom where you go where you learn the perfect place to stab it.
Biology.
But of course, yes, biology, absolutely. So that's a place to go.
Alright, so classroom lets you once per turn still one of your guild members to get away from the heat. Like if the
Question? Yeah.
Would these be like mana kind of equivalencies, or is it more of like, are we using students as pawns? Like, if you have 2 students.
So what I was indicating is that that requires 2 blue power to overcome, and whether you're getting that power from your starting cards or your students or other cards also give you that power, so be it. That's up to you.
Did we divide what the red and the blue meant?
It's whatever you want.
I didn't really quite settle on
It's whatever you guys want it to be, and then we'll try and get there.
Yeah, so we might as well
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So Sage just asked a very, very good question, because I actually meant to bring that up there. How do you guys think it should end?
Well, I think there's a couple different routes, and we were talking about some of them. One is like you have goals that you have to meet and accomplish all your goals for events. One is that you're actually attacking the other guild leaders, and then
Or possibly can recruit their team members to your team.
or just like you have to kill all their team members or something, which doesn't. I don't think that really makes sense because they assume that they start off with their team members and then
Right.
playing their team members.
Yeah, they're definitely starting out without team members,
Yeah, so
at least for now.
I think it makes most sense if like and they can put up their like team members as blocks, sort of. But I guess it might not make sense with the story. So I don't know. Maybe.
Oh yeah, I guess
Maybe.
that's right. We wanted the best junior assassin.
Yeah.
When we grow
So
up.
if your goal is
Let me know for 1 second. What was your name again?
Laura.
Laura. Okay. Hey, can I have everybody's attention for a second? So Laura pointed out something that I was meaning to bring up, and I kind of failed to bring up. So I figured I should bring it up. We didn't really talk about winning and how the game ends. You guys should figure out a way you'd like the game to end. So if it's scoring some number of victory points, or doing some number of dastardly deeds, or whatever other mechanic you come up with for now. Even if you don't write out everything that gets you to that point, come up with a couple of ideas that would feel good, if you want to go with a feeling route, or would lend itself to a good story or would be a good mechanic. You know, a very German thing to do is, a German board game thing to do is, first one to 15 points wins. You could do that, and that just works. And you say, well, we got to 15 points, our team is better than yours. Or maybe there's something more inventive. That's up to you guys. So keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Maybe we have a common target, like both teams are like.
The killed pile will keep track of how many of your young, well, not your young, but how many young assassins have died total. And so at whatever, 10 or 15, once that many have died, then the game is also in.
The school gets shut down.
Well, the semester ends. And then I thought about a goal, which would be at the end of the game, which would be like A for effort or something, where you failed on a lot of stuff and gotten a lot of your assassins killed, but at least you were trying, so you get some points.
So field trip. Yeah, that should mean a lot.
In theory, there should be, so there's red goals, there's blue goals, and then goals and court, and the goals are separate from the problem. There isn't an epic goal. There could be.
There are epic problems.
There are epic problems. I did leave a blank space. You write whatever you want there, and you can use the tab. You can write whatever.
Yeah. So noun.
I don't get how these cards will all manage to
Is it like more like
put together into a coherent deck.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Right now, don't worry so much about coherence. Right now, what I'm looking for ideally is a couple of really good ideas that we like, and then we'll kind of hammer those really good ideas together into a system. And then from that system, we'll then build everything. So I don't know what the nouns are that people love. We're going to come up with some number of them now, or we are now. And I don't know all of the junior assassins that people are going to, but one of the ideas people come up with will be the greatest little idea for what a junior assassin should be. And we'll have a couple of those, and from there, it'll build back up. So here comes the fun part. There are 3 copies of this, right? One here, one there, one there. And then, you know, there are 2 of them. So like 5, 6 of these ideas are gonna get killed. Which is kind of funny considering it's an assassin game. But we'll get there, and we'll go from the disparate ideas into something more coherent, and then we'll get something more definite.
Okay.
In the 35 minutes we have left.
Okay.
When you dismiss something from your discard pile, are you removing it from this?
That's so right now my intention for the word dismiss is that card is removed from the game. That is like banish from Ascension or scrap from Star Realms.
So I'm making some nouns as students. I don't know if that's
We have
So that would mean that the student stays in play.
right.
And if you want that, then that's totally fine. Right. You can totally make them that way.
Right. Yeah, we need students.
The powers of what?
Conceptually, what is a power?
That's up to you. If it were me right now, since we've said that the player represents the leader of this guild, then that represents their rating / influence. And so they are partly touchy-feely blue, and partly knifey-stabby red, and partly leveled with gold of basic.
So what I was trying to understand is, this is not a noun or anything else we touched on, this is a resource.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to remember. Cool, thank you.
Yep. And your other cards can give you that resource, and I expect that they will. Otherwise, you won't be able to ever do the bigger things.
Yeah, you come up with what happens, and it's like, what should the triggering condition be? What should we do with that?
So what are the teammates? Okay, so
we have all come up with a bunch of ideas, and I saw that some of you guys were really struggling through the minutia of what does this mean and what does that mean, and really that's kind of what life's all about. What are we struggling to achieve here? It is very, very, very difficult to come up with good cards on the spot. And if you are good at doing that, you might possibly be able to get a job at exactly 4 companies to do that sort of thing. We're going to go through a bunch of the ideas now, and if you came up with ideas that we don't pick, it's not because you're bad, because everybody's coming up with ideas all trying to fight the same slot, and it turns out that's exactly the way it works at Wizards of the Coast. And that's exactly the way it works at most of these sorts of companies that have teams working, because a lot of people will need to come up with that showcase planeswalker elf that uses green mana. Well, what does that do? I don't know. We'll have 5 ideas that I'll fight. Or, you know, we're making yet another Star Wars card game. What does this Luke Skywalker do? Having been there multiple times myself, I can tell you that it is very difficult to come up with a Luke Skywalker at this point that hasn't already been done by either Wizards of the Coast, or Decipher, or Fantasy Flight, or Sony Online Entertainment, or the other Sony Online, and now BioWare. All right, let's talk about some cards. All right, where should we start? How about we start with something relatively easy like problems. So, let me come up here to our problems. Where do we go? Small problems. Okay. So, let's talk about some small problems. Let's talk. So you'll notice in this little framework I made, I have small problems, 1B, 1R for 1 blue, 1 red. In the Magic parlance, B would be black and U would be blue. Since I don't have black, I don't have to collide in the namespace that way. So I order them up, small problem, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's talk about some 1s and 2s. What do some people have for small problem 1? You can tell me if it's blue or red after you talk about it, or when you talk about it. What do you guys have over there for small problems 1s?
We have Growling Stomach.
Growling Stomach, okay.
Overcome 1 blue, and the reward is draw a card.
Okay.
Smart Pants, which I think is that you have to fight your intelligent pants off, or at least figure out how to get them to behave.
You know, I always wanted a pair of Smart Pants.
Overcome is also 1 blue, and you reorder the top 3 cards of your deck.
Okay. So that might only be useful depending on the number of cards people draw each turn. Right. So in a lot of deck building games, they play their whole hand and discard and redraw their whole hand. But maybe if you're reordering the center row, that way you can have a bit of prognostication into the future. I like that though.
And Slap Fight, which was...
Slap Fight!
Overcome was 1 red, and give your opponent 1 generic power card.
Oh, I see. So you're fattening their deck up doing bad things.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Oh, it's almost like this weird curse, but not quite. I like it. Okay.
Small problem. Defection. People leave. You discard 1 card, draw 1 card.
Sure.
Run away. Opponent discards a card. Bedbugs. Freeze 1 card. Opponent or self.
So freeze a card.
Yeah, you kind of put it out of play for a turn.
Oh, I see.
Turns.
Okay, I like that.
First kiss, first broken heart.
Oh. Okay, wait, all together now.
Aww.
That's so beautiful.
You trade 1 of your cards with an opponent's card.
Oh, I like it. That's the thing you can do in deck building games that you can't really do in trading card games, because all the cards go back into the same box.
Copied notes never caught, and copied notes caught playing the other guy. 2 cards.
Sure.
The first one, you look at opponent's top 3 cards and just take 1. The other one, you look at top 3 cards of opponents and you remove 1 from the game.
Wow, I like it. All right, I really like kind of the flavor of where we're going with the small problems here. Let me back up a step. I should have started with the ending in both of these, so I'll get back to that right now. How does this game end? Alternatively, how do you win? And those are not the same sentence, the same thought. You guys spent a bunch of time thinking about the ending. What did you guys come up with?
Well, you could assassinate the king, or you could make friends with the king, or what's the third one?
I think it was like, well, so there's one version where there's like 3 different ways to win. One, you just get a really awesome team.
Oh,
so
so
the value of your team just adds up to a certain amount, and then you're done.
Sure.
Or you like assassinate, I guess, Or you can assassinate the king, or you can cozy up to the king.
Okay. So I like where that goes. How many of you have played the trading card game called Legends of the Five Rings? Hands up, anybody? Oh my god. All right. Legends of the Five Rings was this tragically underplayed trading card game from 1995, and then it's still alive somehow despite itself. It has 3 victory conditions, and the balance between those 3 things are an excellent, excellent game thing. You can win through enlightenment. You can win through honor. Every card has every creature you play, every persona has an honor value that adds to your clan's honor. And then there's also military victory, destroying all of your opponent's provinces so they can't play any more cards. And the intersection of all 3 of those things, the Enlightenment victory doesn't really intersect with the other 2 as well, but the balancing act, both as a designer and as a player, is fascinating. Might be out of scope for tonight, but I want to hang on to it because I think that might be a way we could go. What do you guys come up with for how we want to end and how we want to win, if you did it all?
So we did discuss it. We did not come up with a clear, this is how it should end.
Okay.
Our idea was to have 2 stages, where one stage is to draw out the deck and do complete deck building, and then have a secondary stage that determines the win.
Oh, I like that. Okay. First semester, second semester, that sort of thing.
Yeah, was sort of parallel to that idea that I didn't have a chance to say before you called time, was the notion of doing have a mechanism in the game that advances the semesters.
Okay.
Or the quarters, you can break it down into smaller segments.
Oh, I like that. So you could have like each turn as a quarter, and then...
Or you have to spend a certain amount to advance. Have it be a controllable thing,
Oh,
not
sure.
an externally imposed thing.
Oh, okay.
But something so that the person who wants to advance the game faster actually has to spend resources to do so.
Oh, I like that. So, and that's a little bit like indirectly, like in Dominion, where the player that's trying to end the game is putting themselves at a disadvantage to winning the game. But in theory, they have a good enough lead to try and do that.
It would also leave you the option of creating the counter option of slowing down the progress of the semester.
Sure. Oh, I like that. And then, especially if the flavor is not about time, but about accomplishment, because speeding up and slowing down time gets weird. So maybe semesters in this school are not based on, we got 3 months done and here's all the things we wanted to do in these 3 months. It's, these are the things we need to get done before any of you are getting anywhere, and how quickly are we getting through it or not. I like that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of staring off into the distance because I'm picturing cards and a layout and like this. Yeah, like you could have, and this is out of scope for tonight, but you could have a separate deck, and each quarter you could take the problems out of the deck entirely, and each quarter it has a randomly dealt problem, and solving that problem is completing the quarter. And then after you solve all 12 of the problem deck's problems, you've finished the game, and who's ever in the lead, if the game even makes it that long. That's okay. I have a lot of ideas from that. I like that. Obviously, what is your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Lisa.
Lisa. Okay. Lisa, absolutely love the concept of having the time element be a core part here, because that feels resonant to me with regards to a school and classes. Does that feel good to people, that like your time in school is time? I'm not saying that the time is how you win, but the time is how the game ends, and then how we and is one element towards winning. And then whether or not we have the win be how do I put this? So I love the concept of, for instance, this game is going to last for 8 quarters, right? Your 2 years. And your first few quarters have small problems, your next few quarters have big problems, and your final quarter has an epic problem. And I don't know if the game makes it that far, but if it does, whoever solves the epic problem wins. If the game ends some other way first, and then that's fine too. What do people think about that? Let's start there for a minute.
I think that ties in really nicely with the idea of having low-level contracts, mid-level contracts, and high-level contracts, and they're almost proficiency exams for the students.
I like that. Midterms. Oh my god, that's perfect. I love that.
That's actually what I did for my problems, was that most of them had an ability while they were visible that was a detrimental ability, and one of them was chemistry finals.
Oh, I love that. I am noting that we have about 17 minutes left, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on a little bit of the project manager hat and make a couple of decisions so we can move forward. So I think what we do is we, instead of doing a separate deck, because I like the concept of the one center deck, we take your concept of when people start the game, they the center deck is kind of weighted such that you shuffle the center deck and then you shuffle the problems separately, or you shuffle the center deck, you take the problems and you take all the small problems, shuffle them, and you put them into the top third of the deck. You take the medium problems, shuffle them, put them in the middle third of your deck. You take the epic problem and you put it somewhere in the bottom third of the deck. And if the game is not over by the time you get to the epic problem, solving the epic problem wins. Otherwise, like, the reward for solving the epic problem is literally you win the game. So regardless of any other win condition, solving the epic problem wins you the game. So let's go with that for a minute. What is the epic problem? What did people write down for some ideas for the epic problem? The reward for solving the epic problem is you win. What is the epic problem that we're attempting to solve? Yep.
You killed the wrong king.
You killed the wrong king.
Yeah.
So how do you solve that problem? By killing the right king?
Or necromancy.
This is not the Junior Magic League. The JML will be in the second expansion.
Frame the other side.
They did it.
They did it.
They did it. This app, by the way, if you Google Magic Set Editor, MSE, you're looking for MSE2, and you can spend a very, 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 very long time learning all of the foibles of this thing. This thing will let you make cards that look exactly like Magic the Gathering cards. I've downloaded a template that lets me make cards that look slightly different, and I've edited that template to make them look a lot different, so they're not Magic the Gathering mana symbols, because you never should use them ever. Ever. Because they're not yours. Okay, so we have the one win condition. If you overcome Peace Among the Kingdoms, the reward is war breaks out. War breaks out, you win. Okay, round of applause, we've solved the main problem. We know what we're going after. Excellent! Okay, now then, other than winning via solving the epic problem, let's come up with one other way we're happy with for now, in which you win. So we heard having a high value of team, and we heard, what else did we hear? We heard what?
Well, solving other more minor goals, which I
No, that's me.
goals. So accumulating points via goals and either accumulating point total or having the most points when, you know, school gets closed due to massive death.
Sure. Okay, so here's what I suggest we do. So many of the cards have a little victory point total in the lower right-hand corner. So I don't know what the math is, because I kind of threw some numbers up there, but why don't we say that if you reach some total, you have achieved the team that you're happy with, that you're ready to go out in the world and be your own named Assassin's Guild. And that those points will represent reputation, and you're building up this reputation doing awesome and evil things. In fact, I think that should be the names of the two colors. So you have blue for awesome and red for evil. No. You could, actually. What if, after, remember earlier when I complained about war? So what if, after somebody gets to a certain amount of points, they can declare war? And you take your deck, and you take all the cards out of it that are not the victory point cards, both players, and then you play a game of war. And you're flipping over the cards of your deck that you've built up over time. And war is the worst game mechanic ever, but for assassins it might be perfect. Once somebody earns a certain number of points, they can declare Assassin's War and just try and kill the other team. And that is strongly looked down upon, but allowed, because you can't, assassin's gonna assassinate. That's gotta be a card name, somebody write that down. Assassin's gonna assassinate. I don't know what the card does. Okay, so why don't we go with that? So we have cards that give you victory points. Those victory points can be used in war. When you get to a certain victory point total, which will be based on math for how many victory points are in the deck, and I'm not going to know that sitting here, you can play war, or you can continue to, if you think you're going to, if you think you're the ones that can solve the epic problem, maybe you don't declare war. If you think you aren't the ones that can solve the epic problem, you go all in and declare war and take your chances. And that is a less honorable victory, but it is still a victory. So here's what we've figured out so far. We have figured out that problems are the way in which the game advances, and they're sorted to minor, major, and epic, or small problems, medium problems, and epic problems. And we have a couple of nouns to go along with that. Let's talk about verbs. So verbs are people, and verbs are things. That are actions, not things. Because I went to English class, I know nouns are things. Let's talk about some verbs. So what do you guys have for verbs? Why don't we start here? Because we started over there before. What do you guys have for verbs that you like?
I think we have a verb sheet, which is a cop-out.
The 3 blue, I just got a class clown. He gains a blue and then dismisses a card from your discard pile.
Oh, I like it. Okay. Class clown. Okay. Sure. That class clown. So one thing I like to do is proper nouns. So Andy, the class clown, as an example. Proper nouns are bad for trading card games unless they are the epic one of. They're really good for deck building games. So like most of the really good ships in Star Realms have like very big name sounding things, but Ascension does it way better. Where you have like Arha Templar as opposed to Worshipper. And then you have specifically named ones that cost 6 and 7, and all those names are escaping me because I'm on the spot. Okay, class clown, I like it. What do you guys have over there for some verbs?
Field trip.
Okay.
Face stab.
What does field trip do?
That's the gain 2 blue or the 2 victory points.
Okay.
Sprint is the gain the red circle and dismiss a card from the center row.
Okay.
And face stab is to gain 2 red and draw 2 cards and discard a card.
Okay. Excellent. Face stab. That'll leave a mark. In fact, the flavor text on that card should say that'll leave a mark. This game just inspires me to come up with really pithy things to put on the bottoms of cards. All right, what do you guys have over there?
Related teammate ideas. So one is the treacherous teammate who switches sides when it looks like the other side is winning.
Okay.
And one is the bleeding heart teammate who switches sides when the other side is losing.
So what happens when this card switches sides? It goes into the other person's deck?
To the other player.
Okay, and what does that end up doing?
Well, it's, I mean, other than that, I guess there have to be other attributes to it.
Okay.
You can use them.
If you don't have something yet, that's fine. There's a thing in the Star Wars trading card game, the first one. They had a series of cards called inserts, where you would play a card and it would insert into your opponent's deck, and then when they drew it, bad things. Very, very bad things. Because it was a trading card game, they had to do really weird things like shuffling the card in face up so people couldn't steal the card. But because it's a deck building game and all the cards go into the same box, there's a whole bunch of mechanics you could do around that I have not seen before, and so I like that a lot. But what are some goals that people came up with? We would now probably redevelop the goals given how we're probably going to change how the game ends, or now that we've come up with the way the game ends. But that's fine, even if we're just talking thematically for a minute. What do we have for some ideas for goals?
Well, so if it's about time passing through the school year, you can have some goals that are to pass through the basic assassination process, poisoning and stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I like that.
Drama 101.
Yes, it's important to pretend that you're dead. That way, the assassination attempt fails, even if they think it succeeded. It's not cowardly. It's surviving. You were going to say something.
I had a couple in that category of trying to maneuver students in and out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
So one that cost not too much was contract, blackmail a clerk.
After you print it out and you assemble your deck and you play it with yourself a few dozen times, and then you dare to show it in front of somebody else that you know and trust, and you play it a few times, have a marker, take cards out, make changes in situ, put it back in, keep going. The only way games get good is by playing them when they're bad. And that is really difficult to do sometimes. So I just want to say thank you to all of y'all for this, and I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too.
Hi, my name's Dan, and I'm evidently a cool dude. All right, what can I...
Well, what did you think about tonight's event?
I thought it was interesting. I've never been to one of these before. This is my first night. I got invited by a friend, and I've never gone through the creative process of designing a game so collaboratively, or with a big group of people, or with mechanics, or with goals, or a structure, or anything like that. So it was interesting to see the process from a perspective that I normally am not too familiar with or have ever really engaged with.
So, do you plan on moving forward and playing some games or creating some games since you've been in this event tonight?
Well, I'm in the middle of a process of creating a game, but I'm kind of floundering into how the structure, how to process it. So fortunately, tonight was a really good idea of a process. So I'm going to go back to my shop, take a look at what I've got, and see how I can think about it in a different perspective. So hopefully it'll show up in the soup of the game.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sonam Adnal. I'm not with any studio. I have been designing games for a number of years, not professionally though. I've taken a number of game design courses at City University of New York and Columbia University Teachers College, and I really enjoy going in and seeing a workshop and participating in a workshop. I think that rubrics like this, where the limitations really help spur people's imagination. I don't remember who it was that said the scariest thing to look for a writer is a blank page, but really, yeah, having limitations really helps get the creative juices going. I'd love to see or be involved in if it continues to evolve, because another fun part which I really enjoy about game design is the iterative testing of, as Andrew said, you have to play the bad version before it'll become good. So you play it and you're like, oh well, this was crap, this was crap, this was crap, but this bit felt fun. So then you shuffle the other bits around, but you keep that bit the same, and then you just iterate it out. And that part, I really enjoy that. So,
Well, thank you so much for your feedback.